Hey, everybody, I'm Robert Yerby, and I'm an insurance professional, and admittedly, kind of an insurance nerd. My friends and family tell me that nobody is going to want to listen to a podcast about insurance. So instead, on this show, I'm hoping to share a story or have a conversation with a guest about some relatable experience, and then show you how insurance impacts that story or topic. My hope is you'll enjoy a few laughs with me and maybe learn at least one interesting thing about insurance along the way. Here we go. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining the podcast. This week, I've got my good friend Justin Candau with me uh, from St. Louis. It looks like you're in a rental car or something.
I am in a rental car. It's actually a rental truck. We're using it for a parts truck here for all the hail damage that we're doing out here in St. Louis, and so we have to run back and forth to pick up parts. So they actually hooked me up with a very nice GMC Sierra
Okay.
memory seats, leather seats. It's got the full on pack. I was surprised that Enterprise had such a nice car, but
Okay.
uh, yeah, seems like they wanted to take care of us, and they did a good job. So there's a little plug for Enterprise. We like Enterprise.
Sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah,
So I don't rent cars as much as I used to, but this was my go-to move. Okay. So I used to fly from O'Hare in Chicago to Bozeman like 1 week a month. And Bozeman was a pretty little airport back then because this would have been like in the mid 2000s,
sure.
uh, yeah, 2010s. And so I was a Hertz guy. And so I'd go to the Hertz counter and it'd be like the same two or three people there, but I can't picture her, but I feel like there was this one girl that was always working the same shift because I would fly in on Sunday. There's only one
Yeah.
direct flight from O'Hare to Bozeman. So I was on that same flight. I see the same girl, and she'd be checking me in, and she'd make the statement like, "Oh, we've got a Nissan Altima for you," or whatever. And then my line would be, "Do you have anything sexier?"
Yes, sir.
And sometimes they would,
Yes.
and she would just hook me up because she saw me every month. Yeah.
That is odd. That is a great way to ask. Yeah, I like it.
And
That's
I've used that other places. Sometimes they come back with something good, and sometimes it's just like, no, I can get you,
yeah. I
whatever.
you get a Nissan or you get a Volkswagen. Trust me, I already put you in what was more sexier than the two. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
as sexy as she gets. Yep.
Uh, okay, so I I know that you've been on my podcast before, but I don't recall how long it's been, and I don't think anybody will remember what it is that you're doing. So tell us why you're in St. Louis.
Oh yeah, so last time we talked was when I was in Mexico, and so that would have
Yeah.
been late February, early March. So obviously, my name Justin Candau. I run the catastrophic loss division here at Sedgwick, and so normally my hometown is Montana, but I've been out here in St. Louis for a couple months now, just due to the recent hailstorms. So my team is out here. Not only are we doing the estimating and appraisal on those vehicles, we're actually starting to repair the cars now. So we came in and we were able to lease, a large warehouse space, and it's pretty cool because again, it's paintless dent repair. So these cars are getting fixed without us having to run them through the body shop. You don't have to actually do the paint work on it. You can actually repair these cars without damaging the factory paint. So pretty cool process. I got a team of 17 people out here and then 40 technicians that are repairing these cars for me. So pretty big operation, pretty fun. I definitely enjoy what
Cool.
I do. So
Cool. It's boys out on the road hanging out.
yeah, we bought a grill, so we brought a big Cabela's smoker, and so
Okay.
we've been smoking a bunch of meats and stuff for lunches, trying to cut back on costs. Because I went out to they have casinos here. I didn't know that they have two casinos here in St. Louis.
Okay.
We went out to the Hollywood casino. We ate at a Italian restaurant. And the funny thing is everybody ordered prime rib, or not prime rib, ribeyes. Everybody orders
Okay.
ribeyes.
Yeah.
Italian joint, and everybody orders for whatever reason. Uh, between booze and ribeyes for uh 10 plus people, 10-ish people, $1,500.
Ah,
I could
yeah.
not. A little sticker shock, a little sticker shot on that bill. So then we were like, well, we could buy two grills or two smokers for that cost.
Yeah.
So we were like, let's just buy one smoker, and then we figured we'd try to be a little more cost effective on our meals. So
That's
ever since
great.
then, yeah, yeah, think smarter, right?
Okay. Okay. So when I asked you to be on the show, you had texted that you were in St. Louis, and I was like, oh, I had a topic, but I don't care about that topic anymore. I want you to tell me the murder shell story again.
Oh, the murder shell story. So the murder shell story happened a year ago. Uh, I didn't know much about St. Louis. Like, I'm not from here. I don't know a whole lot of people here. I don't have any family here. We were coming out to do a big dealership, and the dealership had, 3,000 cars.
Yep.
So we were looking for a VBRO, and shockingly, there's really not a whole lot of options here in St. Louis. I don't know if they have laws or what really prevents them from having, the typical amount of VBROs that I'm used to. And we found this one. It was very eccentric, super, super eccentric. It on the outside it looks like a warehouse, but on the inside it was amazing. Really old-fashioned, rustic, super, super cool layout. 3 stories. Downstairs they had a poker table, uh, a blackjack table, basically like a big game room. Had like a
Yeah.
stage to do karaoke. Had like an old rustic
Dang.
bar, and then the second and third floors were just different rooms and stuff like that. Had the original hardwood floors in there. Super eccentric place. It was 3 stories. Uh,
Yep.
it was on the outside, it looked like a warehouse, but on the inside, it was very kind of
Yep.
old time rock and roll, I guess. I mean, downstairs was pool table and dartboard and poker table and kind of a little stage that they had set up for karaoke and old time bar. And then upstairs was obviously the rooms. So the second 2 floors were the rooms and kitchens and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
uh, there was 6 of us staying there. Everybody had their own bedroom. Plus we had a couple extra bedrooms. So I mean, it's a pretty big warehouse converted to a VBRO, and it had a bunch of it was really cool actually because it had the history of the building in the house. So like
Oh, okay.
on the walls it had a bunch of descriptions of how the place was built and all the famous people that had stayed there and all the rest of it. What we didn't realize is that it was actually in the heart of East St. Louis, straight across the street from the government buildings where the BLM had their riots and all that stuff went down. It's right in that area. So they still had like all the graffiti on the buildings that were there. I
Okay.
We didn't realize how rough of a neighborhood it was, but my buddy Kirk, he likes to go running. Every morning he would run to the arch. And
Yeah.
so he gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go for his run. Very first day, he passes by a guy that just doesn't look right, but he doesn't think anything of it. He's kind of slumped over, definitely a homeless, individual. He's slumped over and he's looking like he's sleeping very uncomfortably. Well, on the way back, he's in a body bag. And what we found out is every day that Kirk went running, he saw at least one dead body, at least one.
What?
And so, and so, yeah, so
Like natural
the
causes, or like they didn't have bullet wounds or something?
As far as we know, none of them had bullet wounds. That is suspect. We're not 100% sure on that. Once we figured out where we were at and what was going on, I question how some of these people may or may not have died. But this one looked like the very first day definitely looked like somebody just had a bad day and overdosed, and they're no longer with us. And so but every day at least one dead body. Sometimes he was seeing two or three dead bodies. Like I mean, it is crazy. So we start to realize we're probably not, we're not in the right spot. We're definitely in probably a rougher neighborhood than what we wanted to be. So we finish up early with this dealership, and this is where the story gets kind of funny. So we finish up early. We go to a St. Louis Cardinals game, and we may or may not have celebrated with a few alcoholic beverages. And so
Yeah.
we're expecting the ballpark was close enough to where we could walk to it. We walked to the baseball game.
Uh,
We were not planning on walking back. We assumed it was going to be dark, bad neighborhood. Let's just get an Uber back.
yeah.
We walk there, have a great time at the baseball game. I bought probably $400 or $500 in swag because maybe I had too many beers and was little bit more persuaded to buy swag. I'm not even a baseball fan, right? So I
Yeah.
don't cheer for the Cardinals. I could care less. I like to watch the game, um, but that's about it. I don't have a team, so it's kind of
Okay.
hilarious that I have St. Louis Cardinals swag, especially when my boss is a huge Cubs fan. So it really goes well when I'm on team meetings wearing the St. Louis swag. So, but
That's
anyways, we're getting ready to leave, and we're trying to find an Uber, and there's no Ubers, nothing. We cannot figure out where to get an Uber. On the app, it even shows like there's that nobody will come to us. Like they
yeah.
just don't service this area. So there's cops monitoring traffic, and we're like, hey, where do we catch an Uber? And he was like, you got about 45 minutes to get it figured out, but it's a long walk and I would not walk there now. And so
Mm.
he kind of puts this sense of fear and urgency in me. And so he says, once we're out of here, we're not coming back. We do not come back to this area. So it's starting to become very real on how rough of an area we're in. So I may or may not have mentioned that I would piss on his shoe for a free ride home. And he said, you're not going to get a free ride home if you piss on my shoe. You're probably going to get a ride to somewhere where you don't want to go. So I was begging and pleading for a ride home, and that wasn't working. Luckily, there was a gentleman on a golf cart that had neon lights all over it, had a cooler of beer on the back of it, and he was more than willing to give us a ride home. So
How
he
many
asked
how many
where.
people did you have?
I just had four at this time.
Okay.
Everybody else had gone home. We had kind of wrapped it up. So it was just four of us. So we all pile into this golf cart and we're hanging on to the back of it and having a good time, drinking a couple beers. So he's asking us where we were going. And so we said, hey, we're right next, around the corner down this road, right next to this Shell gas station. And he says, hey, that's the murder Shell. And so we all laugh. We like, what are you talking about? So he tells us the story of how like there's been I don't know how many execution style murders in this Shell gas station, but it's very well known by the locals of the murder Shell. Literally, it's 1 block away from the VBRO that we stayed at. I finally did a little bit of Google research, and it's still there. You can do the Google research, and you'll see the murder Shell in East St. Louis
Yeah.
is a real thing, and we really didn't realize how close to danger we really were. It's to say that East St. Louis is a little bit of a rough area to be, it's probably an understatement. So luckily we survived. And now it's a hilarious story that I get to share with you and the rest of your listeners on a podcast. So there you go. That's the murder shell
It's
story.
it's funny because you survived, but that could have been
Yeah.
horrible, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Huh. So yeah, you told me that story at the bar, and I've probably, and this was 2, 3 weeks ago, I don't know. I've probably told that story half a dozen times, like at my bar here in
Yeah.
Scottsdale and wherever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and you're right. You can look it up. I've looked it up on my phone to show people a couple of times.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah. It's quite the story. Again, I mean, especially for your podcast, again, if you wanted to branch out into the insurance side of that now, I have no idea how that Shell gas station is still able to obtain insurance
right.
with the issues that are going on there. I mean, it's not like people are just getting murdered there, like accidentally shot, like in drive-bys. It's like execution style. They line them up, put them on the knees, and hit them in the back of the head. That's like
Yeah.
there's some liability there.
And you think the company wouldn't want that sort of like press. They don't want that
Right?
reputation. You need to shut
Yeah.
that down.
Right.
Ah.
Yeah.
Anyway, did you see people
Yeah.
like just going in there for snacks and like are people gassing up there? Like they're still doing
We
business?
Yeah, yeah. So, one of our other buddies, Patrick, he actually walked over to the Shell gas station and tried to buy some stuff, and he learned very quickly. He was like, "I'm never going back there again." He thought for sure that he was going to get robbed. Like, he kind of got surrounded, and some things were starting to stack up there. He got real nervous, and then luckily
Hell.
a couple extra people came in, and like he got out of there pretty quick. But yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
tend to
we
I
had
tend to
no
go to the
idea where we
same
were.
gas stations over and over again because I'm familiar with
Yeah,
them. Yeah. And I don't go in very often, but I only go in the ones that I feel, yeah, like I know pretty well. And
yeah,
I'm in Chandler, Arizona. That's where I'm gassing up most often. Yeah, this is a,
yeah,
nice suburb of Phoenix. It's not dangerous like East St. Louis.
yeah.
Huh.
Well, I think there might have been a little bit of naive in me. Spent 20 years in Montana now, and so I've started to grown complacent to the lifestyle of Montana. Uh, and hopefully, again, I don't want any more people to move there. So you're more than welcome to come visit. You just can't stay there, because we want Montana to stay Montana. We definitely don't want it to turn into East St. Louis. And so I like my gas stations in Montana a little better.
I wouldn't turn it into East St. Louis. I'm cool.
No, you could come. You just can't stay here. You don't have to
Uh,
go home. You just can't stay here.
all right, well, likewise, we don't need any more people in Arizona. I can tell you
Yeah,
that. All right.
yeah.
Freeways are jammed.
Exactly. Well, I mean, there's a lot of people in Montana that snowbird like that, right? So there's a lot of people that live in Montana, but believe it or not, like there's a, direct flight, I think, that runs down into to Phoenix.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that like to get out of Montana for the winters. That's what they don't show you on that stupid show, that stupid Yellowstone show. Everybody
Yeah.
loves that show. I hate it. It was the worst thing that happened in Montana. Everybody thought that it was cool to come up and live in Montana. And then we got a week of 50 below zero temperatures. And they were like, they didn't show this in the show. Yeah, no, they don't. And the whole premise of the show is that Montana doesn't want more people. We don't want,
Right.
like
Right.
that's the whole premise. And it ended up, I think they said 40,000 people moved to Montana after the airing of that show. I don't know if there's any truth to that or not, but I would believe it. There's a lot of people that moved to Montana. And it's funny to hear them sitting at bars saying, "Hey, well, there's nothing open 24 hours." Yeah, we don't have 24-hour. There's no chain restaurants here. We don't want it. There's nothing open 24 hours. We don't need it. Like the whole premise of the show is living off your land and figuring out how to be a little bit more independent. Everybody comes here and they want this social aspect and all the rest of it. Like, get out of here.
I'll be honest, I've never watched like a full episode of the show. I've seen
Yeah,
it on, didn't really pay attention to it. I was at my parents' house and they love the show. They live in
yeah,
Michigan. They love the show. And I think they love telling their friends and family that their son is in Montana all the time.
right.
But even when they had it on, I didn't pay attention. I wasn't too interested in it. It seemed like a soap opera. It's a soap opera, right?
It is. Yeah,
Yeah.
high drama, lots and lots of drama. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not my. Yeah, I deal with enough drama in my day-to-day life that I really don't need that uh, additional drama there. So probably not one of my favorite shows either. I
Yeah.
like comedies. That's find me a good comedy. That's what I'm looking for.
All right, dude. Well, let me circle all the way back to why you're in St. Louis. You said something that was interesting to me
Sure.
personally. You've seen my Camaro. I still have it.
Yep.
It's still in really, really good shape. However, I've got two door dings on the driver's side rear, like wheel well area.
Sure.
And it seems to me, not a body shop guy, it seems to me like you just pop that right out. Them little suction cup things or something.
Yeah.
Um, but I haven't taken it into the body shop. I'm afraid that when I take it to the body shop, the guy's going to be looking at it, from all angles, like that Sebastian Maniscalco bit, where he's just like,
Yeah.
boy, if you'd hit it right over here, but 1 inch too far this way, now it's going to be like $8,000.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
without seeing the
Yeah.
thing, just know it's like a quarter size pop in both spots. They're about
Yeah.
8 inches apart, right at the wheel well, and honestly, that's the only thing going on all the
Yeah.
way around the car.
Mhm.
What do you think I should do about that?
Bring it to me so that I can fix it for free.
Drive it 1,400
But
miles.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. If you're not going to do that, find somebody that knows how to do paintless dent repair. It costs you probably about $250.
Okay. Cool.
So what they do, so again, a lot of people think that there's a lot of myths about hail. So it's fun to kind of dive deep into this because
Okay.
hopefully I can help people, understand their policy and understand what to do in a hailstorm. Not everybody gets affected by these, but those that do, can kind of get a better understanding. So, um, hail is actually estimated in categories because, again, you don't want to go through and count every single dent on a panel. So they do it in bulk 1 to 5, 6 to 15, 16 to 31, 31 to 50, so on and so forth. It's on a matrix.
Okay.
And then they do it by dime, nickel, quarter, half dollar, and then they do some oversize in there. So that's how you're calculating the cost of the estimate. You look at the panel, you make an assumption and say, there's roughly 50, 60 dents here. So you put it in the 51 to 75. That gives you a little bit of a buffer so you don't have to be super accurate and get out there and count every single dent.
Yeah.
The next thing is sizing, right? What's the average size? Some could be dime, some could be nickel, some could be quarter. You could have some oversize in there too. So they're just going to categorize it and they're going to say, well, the vast majority of this is quarter. And then we're going to throw a couple oversize at it. So then they calculate that panel. Now, there's a myth out there that you could use dry ice, right? You hit the panel, you get it really, really hot, and then you hit it with dry ice. The theory is that metal will expand and contract with heat and cooling. And that
Okay.
is true, right? So we do in the collision repair industry and even in the paintless dent repair industry, we will use heat uh to expand a panel that's stretched. And so yes, there is some truth to that, but it's not what you think. You can't get a dent out with just getting it really hot and then hitting it with ice. That's not going to pop any of those dents out. It truly does take pressure at the same point in time. So you think of it, if you dent a pop can, normally you go to the outside of the dent and you press on it and that pops it out. And
Yeah.
then there's still a little residual left behind that you kind of have to clean up. So the first method that these guys use, they have these long rods. They're metal rods, but they're kind of soft tips. And so they can go through different holes that are uh, pre uh, pre-implemented into the panels. So like on a hood, they pull the hood off the car, they put it on a stand, they pull the insulator off, and you'll see if you open your hood, there's a bunch of different access points that you can come in. You slide a tool in there and you use a little bit of pressure and you push up on the bottom of the dent. You'll bring the dent up a little bit too high, and then you use a little hammer, whether it's a soft tip metal hammer or a rubber hammer, and then you're just going to tap that dent back down, flattens it out, no crack paint, no nothing. Like, again, the dent
Hmm.
is just gone. So very, very simple process. The other way is glue pulling. So sometimes if there's no access, right, if you don't have any of those predetermined holes from the factory, they actually take like a octagon shaped tab and they use hot glue. It's special glue, but basically it's hot glue. They glue that tab to the car, and then they have a tool. So it's like your tab is here, and then you have two uh, pads that are on the car, and then it has a tool that you can pull up on the dent, so you can kind of work around in different angles, and then
Mm.
you pull that tab up, and that's the same thing. They pull it up just a little too high, they hit that. So all day long in my body shop, it is just hammers. Tap, 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 tap all day long. And I'm in the shop with everybody. So when I go home at night, to not hear any more tapping is really pleasant because, again, it is just constant banging all day
Oh man.
for 12 hours straight. It's crazy. But that's how we do it. The other myth is, again, most people don't walk around their cars, right? So you're not looking for subtle damages like pits and rock chips, that type of stuff. So normally what happens, we'll write an estimate and somebody will say, well, I think, I didn't recognize this. I've never seen this chip in the hood before. And so they think that it's from hail. Hail is not abrasive. It's really not. It's not abrasive enough to damage the paint. That's why we can do paintless dent repair. So you'll
Okay.
walk up to a customer and you say, hey, well, I see all these chips here, but on the roof and on the side of the car, there's all these dents, but there's no chips. So if it was going to chip in one place, it would chip all over the car. It's not just going to chip the hood and not chip the roof and the deck lid and the sides of the doors. So
Sure.
a lot of times you can get people to kind of come around and understand that, but some people get really frustrated because, again, they're not lying. They're not trying to pull one over on the insurance. They're not trying to commit fraud or anything else. They just truly didn't recognize the fact that there was rock chips in the front of their car, and so they want to get that covered. Unfortunately, it's not covered.
Hmm.
Windshields is the most common thing that we run into because most people have rock chips in their windshield, and then they try to get that covered. They actually are being somewhat dishonest
Uh,
because they know they had a rock chip, but they know that they have a deductible, that it can last anymore. Like if it has any type of calibration sensors, I mean, the front windshield could be anywhere
oh
from
yeah.
1,200, 14, 2 grand, right? Again, with all the
Yeah.
calibrations and everything else. So they don't want to pay it, right? Because their deductible could be the same as whatever their collision deductible is. So it might be $1,000, a $500 deductible, 250, but most common is $500, right? So they don't want to have a separate claim. They're already paying $500 for the hail damage. They don't want to have to pay another $500 for the windshield. So they'll be adamant that that rock chip in the windshield is part of the loss. And so you find yourself in some precarious situations trying to explain to somebody that, unfortunately, that's not part of hail, and we can tell the difference. So it's fun to see man-made hail. People get pretty creative. If you use a ball peen hammer, it will leave a little mark in the bottom of the dent. So I'll know that it was a ball peen hammer. Hail is not the same size, so not every dent is the same size. So when you use a ball peen hammer and every single dent is the exact same size. The
Mm.
funny thing too is, again, you'll see it's real heavy on areas where people can reach. So like just right above the door, you'll see a lot of hail. But here in the middle of the roof, like there won't be as much hail because they can't reach as far and hit it with a hammer. And so you'll see this line of inconsistency. So
Yeah.
uh most common method, again, if you're going to try to attempt fraud, is marbles in a sock, because then you have different size marbles. So then you're creating different size hail, and then you just swing it around and hit the car, and you can create, kind of some hail damage that way. That's a little bit harder to tell, but again, a true professional is going to know that it's fraud. It's pretty hard to create fraud or get away with fraud anymore. So. But
Huh.
that's some of the stuff that I've seen in the industry of people trying to get a little creative and get some of that hail money.
Let me ask you this. Okay, so now I'm interested in the fraud. What percentage of claims after a hailstorm do you think are fraudulent?
Well, it depends on what you consider fraud. The
Well,
the obvious blatant fraud, the man-made hail, I would
yeah.
say it's a low, very, very low percentage, maybe 1 to 3%, maybe. It's
Okay.
not super common at all. One out of 100 cars at best. Um,
Okay.
The if you talk about the windshield, I would say that the windshield is a lot higher, probably somewhere in the 65 to 75% of windshields are
Wow.
are actually rock chips that
And they knew it.
you know and what and they yeah, and they knew it. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The other one that's unique to me is uh it's impossible to tell how much hail actually happened on a car. So what I mean by that is St. Louis has already had at least 3 or 4 storms. So your car might have got hit by 3 or 4 different events. Each one of those events, in theory, should have its own deductible. But what most people are finding out, and I can't blame them, is that why wouldn't you just wait till the end of hail season and turn in one claim for the hail damage that's on your vehicle?
Hmm.
Because it's
Okay.
impossible. It is very, very hard for me to try to determine what hail happened from what storm. But dents are dents. There's no
Yeah.
rust. There's no, like, I can't prove that your car was parked outside on Monday and parked inside on Wednesday the next time the hailstorm came through, right?
Yeah.
So is that fraud? I mean, technically, by the way that insurance is written, that would be fraud. I can see the
Yeah.
wheels, the smoke. I see the smoke coming out. I wish we had a little cartoon smoke there.
Yeah. I guess because I don't sell auto policies, I don't read them on a regular
Right.
basis. I would want to go look at the form, but okay, all right, I could see where you're going there. Um, of
The insurance the company's never going to pursue it as fraud, right? I mean,
course.
they're going to still collect their premium and all the rest of it, but they do try to push back. They do try to, if they know that you were involved in a hailstorm, and then you get involved in another hailstorm, they'll want proof that you had the vehicle repaired the first time around. Otherwise, they're going to deduct the amount that they already paid you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that
So,
makes sense.
yeah,
Huh.
but they can't. I mean, if you never turn in the first claim, you just wait until the fifth or sixth storm. There's nothing they can do about it. I mean, it's impossible to try to prove.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know if I'm so quick to call that fraud, the first
Right.
example. Um, yeah, but I'm gonna think about it. I'm gonna think about it, and then when we get together and we're drinking again in Montana, I'm gonna tell you what I think. Okay?
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. I'm curious. Again, I mean, we are on a podcast, and I don't know if you get comments and all the rest of it, but I'd be curious to see what the rest of the world thinks on that too. Because again, I think it's debatable. It's not black and white, that's for sure. So I think that you could get a lot of opinions, and you're going to get a lot of different opinions.
Yeah. Well, this podcast wouldn't have a good cross section of America. This It's going to be heavily weighted towards insurance professionals.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have informed opinions, but they're not representative of America, I would say.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Still interesting nonetheless.
All right, man. I've exhausted my time here, so this is where I'll have to let you go. I want to say thanks to everybody who listened to the podcast or watched the podcast because we had the video version here this week. And if you're looking for continuing education because you're a licensed insurance producer or adjuster, check out live webinars at bmfce.com. And if by chance you know somebody that has hail damage on their car or might want to make people think that they have hail damage on their car, forward them this episode and give them something to think about.